Hello and welcome back to The Haunted Beard. I am continuing through the Halloween franchise, and today we are talking about Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. This is the weird kind of outlier of the series. If you don't know, the original plan, John Carpenter's original plan, was to have for this to kind of be like an anthology series, for each year or each installment to be a different story set on Halloween night. And this was kind of getting back to that original idea, but people just wanted Michael Myers back. And so, obviously, with Halloween 4 and the rest of them, it just continues with the Michael Myers thing. So, however, this is the kind of the one-man wolf pack here. This is our odd outlier, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Let's talk about it. So, this came out the very next year after Part 2, 1982. And this is the story of this, diabolical villain who's trying to kill children by selling Halloween masks through the TV set, through television. Yeah, it's outrageous. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about. I'll just start off with the positives. So, the stuff that I liked about this movie is. I liked the score, and I actually kind of wish it was used a little bit more. I liked the score, particularly the opening theme over the credits, the music during the opening sequence. We are now embedded in the 80s, and this really has a good 80s synth style score that I thought was pretty good, and I liked it, and I kind of would have wished that they would have actually used it a bit more. Another thing that I liked are the kills. The kills in this movie are pretty gnarly. At least out of the first three, these are the most brutal and gruesome kills so far, and they are memorable. There's some the first one involves a guy laying in a hospital bed, and a guy comes up to him. He sticks his fingers in his eye and then just like rips his whole nose and detaches it from his skull. Another guy, this drunk guy is bumbling around. He gets his head ripped off. Another woman gets like a laser through the. This one's just freaking nasty. I mean, this woman gets a laser through the face, and her mouth is all just peeled back, and it's pretty gnarly. It's got some pretty cool kind of practical effects that are used here, and definitely some memorable kills. Probably the most memorable is I think a little over an hour into the movie, you finally kind of get to the point in the film where you see a demonstration of what sort of the master plan is, and yeah, it's pretty gruesome. So yeah, you find out that this guy is trying to kill children en masse all around the country. I mean, it's a diabolical plan. So, but just a really kind of creative kill. It's creepy. It's original. It's disturbing. Yeah, the practical effects in this movie and the kills in this movie are definitely a highlight and probably the best aspect of this. However, that is really about all of the praise that I can give this movie, because the rest of it is not great. So let's talk about the negatives. First of all, let's start with our main character. His name is Daniel. He plays a doctor. And this guy is just kind of a piece of crap individual. I mean, It starts off, he is, well, he's basically an alcoholic. He's got a drinking problem. He's supposed to be, watching his kids. He ends up having to cancel on his kids, and he's in the bar drinking. He meets the daughter of the guy, the patient who just died, and you can tell he's attracted to her. So what does he do? He calls up his ex-wife, cancels his plans that he's supposed to be watching with his kids, and just because he's got the hots for this chick, so he wants to just go with her. And it's just like, I mean, this is supposed to be the protagonist, right? This is supposed to be the guy that we're following and like rooting for through the movie, and the guy is just, he's just a piece of crap. Just some other things that I just didn't think were handled very good. The opening 20 minutes is it's just kind of really sort of choppy, and the pacing is really weird. Some of the dialogue exchanges are just awkward. There's a character who's introduced who is a mortician who Daniel kind of gets her involved as he needs her help, and her character is really completely pointless and doesn't affect the story in any way. Once you find out what happens to her, like, she doesn't actually affect or impact the story whatsoever. Other than the kills, there's not really any sort of memorable sequences in this movie. A lot of it just feels so simply shot. It's just like point and shoot. Just put the camera here, film it. Put the camera here, film. There's just not really anything memorable about the cinematography or the shot selection or anything like that. And it's just interesting. It's almost like there's a bit. I mean, there's really an evolution between now watching the first three Halloween films, where the first film is so reliant on just tension building and suspense building and taking its time, and they weren't as concerned about the bloodiness or the gruesomeness of the kills. They were more concerned about the buildup. Whereas this is, yeah, I guess the kills are more brutal and more gruesome, but you lose all the buildup. I feel like there's just no tension there. There's just no buildup. It's just, you just get a handful of scenes kind of scattered throughout the movie where you just get a really, memorable and brutal kill, but you just miss out on the buildup and the tension there. That it's just a bummer. It's just unfortunate. I also felt like it really took a while for the movie to actually get going. It's only, I think it's 97 minutes to be exact, but we're like at the halfway point, and really all that had happened at that point was this guy, teams up with this girl and they drive to this town, and that's about it. Like, I mean, that's really like all that happened. You're 45 minutes into it, and then it's like they spend, once they're there, it's like they spend, I don't know how long, but them two just, the fact that they like hook up and get together is just ridiculous. And once they get to this town, the first like 20 minutes are just them like fooling around in the hotel room, and like there's just no story development, no character development. Some of his dialogue and line delivery is just cringy and bad. So we get to like 70 minutes into this movie, and you finally get to see what the villain's master plan is. And it's this, brutal, diabolical plan. He's trying to kill the kids all over the country, right? And we get that scene where the kid with the pumpkin mask on, and he dies, and all the snakes and the bugs come out of his mouth and everything. But then you're just asking, like, why? Like, what's his motivation? What has this guy got against the children of this country, right? Like, what in the world is he up to? And then you get this scene where he basically gives you some, like, this mumbo jumbo about Irish history and witchcraft, and then he says something like, oh, the planets were in alignment, and it's just something that must be done. And it's just like, what? Like, it's just a terrible explanation for this diabolical plan that he's got. And it's funny, I was reading through the IMDb trivia, and I came upon this from the screenwriter. I have to read it because the screenwriter makes my point for me. Okay, so here's what it says. During a panel at 2013 35 Years of Terror Halloween Convention in California, Tommy Lee Wallace, who's the screenwriter, was asked by the moderator to explain, as the sole credited screenwriter, the connection between Stonehenge, Ireland, robots, and laser beams that both melt flesh and produce conjure bugs and snakes from human body. Wallace's entire response was, "It's magic, man." And it's just like, yeah, like that's it. And yeah, there's this whole thing too where like they steal part of Stonehenge, like that's somehow part of it. It's just it's magic, man. So it's like, yeah, we don't really need an explanation for this. It's just okay, like sure, there you go. That's it. So let's talk about the ending, which is also not good. I'll just call them the bad guys. They capture the girl, and Daniel has to go and free her. So he finally kills some of the bad guys, and he goes to get the girl out, and she's being strapped. She's strapped down to this table in an unlocked room. So he just like opens the door and just like walks into the room. Like the door isn't locked. There's nobody watching or guarding her. He just like walks in and just like unstraps her, and then they run off. They run off. They get in his car. They drive away, and then all of a sudden, like you find out. So like the one of the main sort of reveals is that a lot of these people around the town are actually robots, and they're just machines. Okay, and so as they're making their getaway, she all of a sudden is like a robot. And like I don't know how that happened or what caused it. Like he turns the radio on, and it's like I don't know if something triggered from the radio, but it's like where was this behavior all the time during the escape and the runaway and the getaway and all that? Now all of a sudden she's just a robot, so she starts attacking him. And you get some kind of cool some special effects, practical effects during this. They hit a tree, her arm gets ripped off, and he gets out of the car and walks around to investigate, and she attacks him, and he knocks her head off, and you get all this machine robot ooze, green goo coming out of her neck, which is cool. And then her severed arm reaches up and attacks him and starts trying to choke him or whatever. And it's kind of a fun scene, but the whole setup doesn't really make any sense. And then he finally makes it to a gas station at the end, and he's got to make a phone call, because the whole thing is this TV program is going to trigger this thing on the masks that the kids are wearing. Okay, it's of course it's ridiculous, but and so it's hilarious. So like he gets to the gas station, and he's on the phone, and he's yelling at the person on the phone like, turn off the TV, stop the programming, stop the programming. And it's just like, first of all, like who in the world did he call? Like whose phone number does he have? How does he get a hold of the guy who's in control of the TV programming? And then like apparently this TV show is on 3 channels, so he gets the guy on the phone to turn off the 2 channels, but he's still waiting on the final channel, and these kids walk into the gas station and they got the masks on, and the final shot is just him screaming into the telephone, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, and then it just cuts to credits. And it's such a cop-out ending. It's like, pick something. It's like either they turn it off and he saves the day, which is just absurd, or he doesn't. And at least if he didn't, it's like you got the guts to like actually go through with this diabolical plan. Like I'll give you some kudos for, hey, you just killed like millions of children all across America. Okay, I'll at least give you some kudos for going there and having a gutsy ending. But they just cop out, and you don't even get an ending. It just cuts to credits, and that's it. And you're just like, all right, well, that was a waste of time. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Halloween Season of the Witch. Oh man, guys, that was it's something. It is something. Like I said, outside of some of the music's cool, and again, I'll give it credit where credit's due. The kills are pretty brutal and gruesome, and are pretty memorable. But outside that, this thing is just it's kind of a pile. It's not great. It is not great. So. With all that being said, I'm going to give this, oh boy, man, I don't know, like a 3.5, maybe a 4, somewhere right in that range out of 10. So that's my thoughts on Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Obviously, I'm going to be continuing this series right along. Up next, we finally get back to our good old friend Michael Myers with Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So that'll be coming up next. Stay tuned, and we will see you next time on The Haunted Beard.